In this video, we'll walk through how to create your outputs for the poster assignment using RStudio on a PC. There's also a video aimed at Mac users, which can be found where you found this video. To get started, you're going to go to the modules page and scroll down to the data application and interpretation assignments. This R assignment 2, exploring data, has everything that you need to create outputs for your posters. We may upload another folder in the future that has more explicit instructions, but you can do everything that you need to do with this assignment. So we'll just stick with that for now. So we're going to download the files. And if you're like me and you are a little impulsive, you might see the file download more than once. If you click the button too many times, that's okay. We'll just go to the downloads folder on our computer. So if you open any sort of file explorer, so I can do that by hitting start, typing file, open the file explorer, and then downloads is usually right on the side here. You're going to have to go ahead and unzip the file. And for my own sanity, I'm going to delete the extra copy I downloaded because it's just going to confuse me. So when you see this zipper, and let me see if, I guess I can't really make it very much bigger. When you see this little item here, there's like a line across the folder, and you see it described as a zipped folder. That means that you have to take an extra step before you can use the folder and its contents. That extra step is extracting the file. In Windows, when you're clicking on a zip file, you will get this option here to extract all. You must press this button, walk through the menu that opens up, and you'll be taken to a new folder. At this point, it's best to just close out the other folders so that you don't get yourself confused. And you've got everything that you need to perform the assignment within this folder. It's why we give it to you like this. If you accidentally forgot to hit the extract button and you open this folder instead, you're going to see a couple signs that you're in the wrong place. You're going to see compress size, you're going to see the word ratio, you're going to see that extract button's there again. So if you do that and you accidentally get yourself into this view, just hit extract all, walk through the menu. This won't usually pop up, it's because I've already done it. Extract your files and then close the zip folder. Get away from where it says ratio. Make sure it looks like a normal folder again. Now that it looks like a normal folder and it doesn't say ratio anywhere, we can open the assignment. When we open the assignment, R is going to check and see if we have everything that we need installed. Yes, so I went ahead and uninstalled some programs so that you could see the warning. So if packages aren't installed, you'll see this yellow warning. Hit install, and it shouldn't take too long. Your experience on the PCs in the computer lab was very unusual. Usually it takes about maybe 30 seconds to a minute to install. So that's all you have to do. If after you install and you see it walk through that process, you still have a yellow warning up here, just close R and reopen the file, and that warning will go away. Sometimes R can get a little bit stuck. So just as a problem-solving metric, anytime anything's behaving in a way you don't expect, close R and reopen it. But everything's looking good here. The programs are installed. I don't see a warning anymore. And if you want to know how to check this, if I went over here and searched for TIDY in packages, I can see Tidyverse is installed right there. So everything is in good shape and ready to go. I'm going to go back and look at the assignment that I downloaded from Canvas. So just a reminder, in Canvas we have the zip folder that we just extracted, and we also have this assignment. The assignment has the instructions that we need to understand how to really work through this effectively and get what we need out for our posters. So we're going to open this in Word, and we're going to read through the instructions. So there's a little bit of a preamble here that tells you why we're doing what we're doing, but the important thing is these steps. So we've already gone to Canvas and found the assignment. We've already downloaded it. We've already extracted it, the folder that it was in, and we've already opened the RMD file in RStudio. You might not, when you're looking at an RMD file, you might not actually see it say .rmd. And sometimes it'll even say something silly here like RHTML, but just the assignment that has this as its name is the one that you're looking for. So we have opened that file. Now we're going to start editing it. So the first step is to edit the top of the file to add your name, replacing this chunk here. So let's go back to R, and we're going to put our name in. And if you want to get extra fancy, you can even update the date to be the current date. Okay, let's go back to our instructions. The next step is to run chunk 1, okay? These chunks are denoted by this breaker line here, and then a description of the chunk. The chunk actually starts when you see a gray box start. So you see this gray box, and there's a play button at the top of the gray box. That's how you run a chunk. Once you hit run on a chunk, it'll work through it with this green progress bar. If there are any problems, it might stop and give you a warning. If there are no problems, it'll make it to the end and then show you output. Some of you had noticed that there is a warning here for users who are stuck in their zip folder. The only time that this actually means that you had a problem is if you see it down here. So if instead of this beautiful table, you see a warning that you're in a zip file, then follow the instructions. Throughout the file, I try to put any instructions in this little white zone right underneath the chunk. But that looks okay, so we'll go back and take a look. We've looked at the table it's pronounced beneath the chunk. That looks okay. We didn't get an error message, so we can move on to the next step. In the next step, we're going to edit 4 rows in chunk 2. So we're going to edit the row variable, the description of the row, the column variable, and the description of the column. Let's go back to the folder that we're working in and pull up our data dictionary. It's good to have this handy so that we can look at anything we need. So we're going to scroll over, look at the yellow column A by pulling this over. And in column A, we see different variable options. So let's pick a demographic variable that we want to use. Let's pick a topic variable that we want to use. So we'll use topic 1 is going to be new premarital sex. Where is that? So, and I'm just going to hit control and make this paste like regular text because it looks confusing. And we'll do a second topic. Let's say topic 2 would be new pillow. Okay, so we have our first topic that we're going to focus on in this first run of the code. So in chunk 2, we're going to write that in for the row variable. So that's our topic, and we need to describe our topic. We want to do this in about 3 words or less. So let's do premarital sex opinion. And then the reason that we need to keep this very short is just that the way the formatting works, it works a lot better if we can keep that short. Next up, we're going to grab the column variable. This will be a demographic. So let's scroll up to our demographics and we'll use new race. So we'll put that here and we'll describe it here. Okay, so now we have a row variable and a description. We have a column variable and a description. We go back to our topic. That's the 4 things that we needed. Sorry, we go back to our instructions. That's the 4 things we needed to edit for chunk 2. So we have topic in the row variable spot. We have demographic in the column variable spot. And we're doing new race. So right now we're going to go ahead and run our code in a moment that produces a table, a set of tables focusing on these 2 things. Let's run chunk 2 and make sure everything looks okay. All right, so just like before, we're gonna hit the run button at the top of the gray chunk to run it, and then we're gonna scroll down through the chunk to get to the output of the chunk. So as we scroll down, we see the output, and it's printing the variables that we used, and it's looking pretty good here. So the variables are printing, these are what we expected. The levels make sense. So we're in good shape to keep going. Let's go back to our instructions. And the next thing after run chunk 2 is run chunk 3. This has instructions for how to rename your file. So we're going to run chunk 3 to print our instructions, and then we're going to follow them. So we have to save a new copy of the file using this name. We're going to copy the name and go File, Save As, and paste in what we copied. It's very, very important that you follow this step. This is the easiest thing to miss. If you don't do this and save a new copy of the code, you won't get a new output. Everything will copy over and it'll be very confusing. This is the only thing that I wasn't able to program to behave the way I wanted automatically. So I need you to pay very close attention here. So we had to copy this new name, File, Save As. Now that we've done this, now we can knit to generate the document. So knitting is pressing this button that looks like a ball of yarn. You'll see something that pops up like this saying it's processing the file. You'll see a report that the file's coming, and then the file will pop up. So this is our file. It got automatically named whatever we named this. So if this name is, if the name of the file that we saved isn't updated, then this will be wrong. So let's go ahead and make sure as our first check that the topic variable matches what we named it, and that the column variable matches what we named it. So we've got new premarital sex by new race, new premarital sex by new race. Perfect. Here were those instructions we just followed in chunk 3. And now, this is the important thing. Now that we've run that and gotten through chunks 2 and 3, we have everything else that we need for the assignment right here in chunks 4, 5, 6, and 7. So here's chunk 4, which prints a one-way frequency table for each variable of interest. So here's our topic variable, new premarital sex. We see a description of what the question was, the different responses people had with the first table, including missing, and the proportion that had that response. We then recalculate that table, taking the missing answers out and leaving only those who had a non-missing answer, getting the proportion that we'll be using for the rest of the project. We do the same thing for our demographic variable, looking at the responses including missing and then taking missing out to get our final numbers. And we also do it for year, as we're going to do some of our comparisons across years. So these are just some basic pieces of information that are important to know. Once we've gotten these one-way frequency tables, we can start looking at our contingency tables. The first one is going to be a contingency table of topic by year, looking at data collected in 2004 versus 2024. So here we're looking at our topic variable by year. This code only ever produces the topic variable by year and not the demographic variable by year. And so what we see in this contingency table is how many people had these various responses to the premarital sex question in 2004 and in 2024, as well as the proportion that responded a given way within 2004 and within 2024, and then overall. In the next chunk, chunk 6, we look at the difference between these two proportions, subtracting the proportion in 2004 from the proportion in 2024. We calculate a confidence interval based on that difference and print it. So here now we have the counts that you saw before. They're left there just to make sure that everything looks okay. So same counts as before. Here are those proportions you saw before. And now here's that new difference that we just calculated, proportion different, the lower confidence interval and the upper confidence interval. And so we can say that in 2024, the proportion that believed that premarital sex was always wrong decreased by about 10%, and that we are 95% confident that the amount that it decreased lies within the range of negative 13% to negative 6%. So the amount that it changed is between negative 13 and negative 6%, or it decreased by 13 to 6%. In our next chunk, chunk 7, we're going to look at the topic by demographic now. So this, we're going to start pulling in that self-reported race. So we print what the questions are again, just to help kind of guide us and make sure we know what we're looking at. And the table that comes out, just like before, it has the topic levels across the rows. So always wrong is here in the first row. And now instead of having year in the columns, it has the responses for new race in the columns. So white, black, other, total, and the proportions within each. For our topic by demographic table, we go ahead and run the chi-square test of independence, looking at the null hypothesis that there is no association between the topic and demographic variables, that the proportions across these two things are not related. Our chi-square test of independence results print here, and with a very low p-value, we can say with 95% confidence that it appears that there is some association between these variables. And then finally, we'll create a bar graph for the topic by demographic information. So we have now the topic variable rows are printed as different colors within each of these bars. And then the self-reported race is presented across these three separate columns. So within people who are white, this is the percentage of respondents that felt that premarital sex was not wrong at all, collapsed across 2004 and 2024. So just overall, same information within people who are Black and within people who have a race other than white and Black. So these are the pieces of information that you're going to need for your project. If this graph that came out looks very funny or is just hard to use, please reach out to Professor Brock and myself, l.hammerslag@uky.edu. We can help you get this customized to look nice for whatever variables you have. There are cases where I didn't test things and it just looks a little funny. So to give you an example, I'm going to show you how we could walk back through and run a new file. So let's say instead of new pillowcase, let's say that we did, our second topic was new own gun. And then let's keep it new race for our demographic variable. So let's go back to our code. We're going to change. So we're going to edit the first 4 rows in chunk 2. So chunk 2, new own gun. And as we do this, we're going to make sure that we carefully walk through each of these steps because it is important. We have to now run chunk 2. So run chunk 2. If you skip one of these steps, things won't go the way that you're expecting. So that's why we're careful. We make sure things look okay. So own a gun looks all right. Race is the same as before. And now we go back to our instructions. We run chunk 3 and follow the instructions. Run chunk 3. We see it has a new name that it wants us to save this file as. We go to File, Save As. We paste. We save. And now we click knit by pressing this yarn ball here. And we have a new assignment created. So if you look back in the folder that we're working in within my downloads directory, you can see that I have one HTML file that contains all of the output for premarital sex by race. And I have one that contains all the output for own a gun by race. So let's take a look at the own a gun by race here and just see how that's looking. So when we do this, our row variable description that prints here is now new own a gun. Let's make sure that that looks the same as the name of our file. So new own a gun by new race, new own a gun by new race. If anything went wrong with your chunk 3 and saving the file, this title won't match these variables and it'll be really confusing for you. So if you find that these 2 variables aren't lining up with the title here, it means that you skipped the steps in chunk 3 or that you didn't run chunk 2 before running chunk 3. So please be careful with that. We see the instructions we had for chunk 3 and what it wanted the title to look like, we see now those chunks, which are now showing us own a gun as the topic variable instead of premarital sex. And the reason I had this as my example is this is one where the graphs look just a little funny. So this is something I can definitely fix for you. Just email me and reach out if you see something like this, and I will make it look nicer. So that, again, that's l.hammerslag@uky.edu, and CC your professor. All right, thank you so much.